Hey everyone, this is Alan over at Cobblers Plus, and today we're going to be resoling a pair of H&K company boots. Definitely not a bad build, but not too familiar with the company, having a little bit of trouble even finding more details about it. But come join us and check out how we're going to be resoling these with leather soles, rubber heels, and adding that rubber half sole there as well.
I'm Alan Trushkov. Join us today and enter our world of a cobbler to see the craftsmanship it takes to rebuild and restore footwear and other leather goods, as well as recommendations from our industry.
So as I mentioned, it's not a brand that I'm too familiar with necessarily. It's one of those that it seems like I can't find too much details on it either. I mean, there are so many different brands of boots and shoes out there. We can't exactly keep track of them all and remember them all. I mean, there's some brands that we've worked on so many times and then we never realized what they were as well because they were a newer company. Kind of a hard thing to keep track of literally thousands of brands in our heads. But these are definitely not a bad build. If you're familiar with them, by all means, leave a little bit of details for me here in the description. I'd like to dig a little bit deeper because from first glance, so far they're looking pretty good. But we'll take them apart and see what's going on underneath that sole. I like to look beneath the sole even. Alright, well, the heel base, it's not too bad necessarily. Seems like a fiber. Actually, this seems like a stacked leather heel base, so make life a little bit easier. And put some thinner here to deactivate the glues. Alright, I'm gonna let that one sit for a minute. I'll go ahead and pop the heel bases off and get back to you when I'm gonna start taking off the soles as well. So I'll see you back in just a few. Alright, so I've got the heel bases off and I got them marked up, which ticket number and foot it's for. So these are definitely a leather stacked heel base on there. They're just kind of coming unglued. It's a bit of a softer leather, so problem with prying off these heel bases when we use our heel pry like that there, they like to bend and flex, and so they come unglued a little bit, so we have to go through and re-glue the whole heel base all around in different spots, like right there and stuff. But fairly normal. And hang on to the old top lift here to make sure we get the same exact thickness. Alright, sorry about the interruption, but one of the things that's a little annoying, I guess you can say, about them, you can see those little nubs. I clipped off some of the nails here, so there's a total of 5, but they're all so centered. It's annoying one because when we're prying off the heel base, we can pry off this whole section, but then once we get to the heels, then the center of the heel base, it's too close there, so it's very hard for us cobblers to be able to tear off the heel base. The other thing is, for you who's wearing it, that's also another problem, is because of one of these corners where the heel bases are, like right here, it starts coming up like that. There's not much for nails right here to really hold it together, other than just strictly glue. The nails only hold the center area, which is not the best thing, unfortunately. I mean, it's not that this whole heel base will just pop off while you're wearing them. It's just that you're going to have these annoying cracks, which these did have. And we see that that's normal usually, but still not the best thing to have. So at this point, I'm just going to take my knife right there and just start cutting between the sole and the Goodyear welt. Just kind of cutting through the stitches. Doesn't cut too badly. Looks like it does have a full 360 welt, so that's a plus. For those of you that don't know, the welt is this piece right here. Right there. That's where the material is basically stitched to the sole. Well, in general, actually, this welt is stitched to the upper of the boot, and then afterwards the sole is glued to that and stitched to the welt. So the welt is kind of like that in-between buffer between the boot itself and the sole. And when I say 360, that means it goes all the way around. Some companies, they only do the welt up to here, and then they put what's called a heel ren back here. Other companies, they'll only stitch the welts up to maybe behind the ball of the foot, like right there. There's a few different variants out there. And most people prefer to get the full 360 welt anyways, so that's kind of a plus for these. Let's see. Good end here. Well, that's interesting. There is no cork in the ball of the foot. I mean, there isn't much room anyways, but there's just no cork. Which is kind of surprising. Although there is cork in the back of the heel. Let me get this off completely here. They use some tough gripper nails, I'll tell you. Okay. Yeah, that cork is really rotted. But yeah, you can see on that sole there, they only have cork back here, not on the ball of the foot. You can see right there, there's no cork right there, which in a way is kind of understandable, because there is barely any room to even add the cork. The only place is back here in the heel area, so that's kind of interesting. But it looks like they've got the shank underneath this midsole section. Well, base midsole is what I like to call it, because it is kind of the base that the shoe is built off of and everything, or the boot. But definitely not a bad build, that's for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up, take out these gripper nails from the inside, and we'll continue on. So I'll see you back here in just a few. Alright, so I've got the nails out and everything. Got to clean up that cork a little more, but it's kind of interesting because the footbed in here is actually cork. Now I had to pull it up a little bit around the heel area. I don't want to remove the whole thing because it's going to start falling apart on me with all the other cork, but it seems like the cork footbed inside the boot reaches all the way up to the toe. So that's where the cork had gone, basically. It's no longer in the underneath the sole, it's inside the boot, which is interesting, you know, but I guess whatever works for them. So just thought I'd show you guys that real quick. So at this point I'll go ahead and finish out this other boot here. I'm going to sand everything out, pull out the old stitches, and start filling in this back area here with cork again, and get ready to stick the soles on. Now, as far as the soles that we're using, we're going to use our regular house grade leather, which oh, they're on my other shelf, but I'll grab them and you guys will see that when I'm sticking the soles back on. And house grade leather is the same equivalent as what the original factory soles are, unless they used JR soles. It's a little bit better than a lot of other companies though, regardless as well. JR soles are a premium grade. They're the highest quality leather soles you can find, and we're not doing that today since we're doing the rubber sole over top anyways. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue on, and we'll see you back in just a few. Alright, so we're back here again. I've got the sole on. I did do a lot of things off camera. Pulled the stitches, of course, and everything on the welt all around. I did fill in the cork like it was originally, just to about right here underneath this leather sole. But got everything marked up for the rubber soles right there that we're going to be putting on. The GTO Cross Hatch sole like that. It's nice grip, not too thick. There's a few different thicknesses options, but it's not a very heavy tread, so it still looks a little nicer and dressier. So right now I'm going to go ahead and go with our trimmer right here and trim up the sole, and then mark up the heel base, sand that out, sand out where the rubber protective sole area is going to go, or rubber half sole. It's not a straight cut, but decided to make it a little bit nicer, slightly rounded there looking. So usually when we end up doing the leather sole and then the rubber over top, my usual recommendation is to stitch the leather first and then just adhere these on, so that it's more cost efficient in the long run to get the rubber just replaced instead of having to replace the leather or undo the stitching and everything. But you know, some people would rather have it done more originally where it's stitched through the rubber. I mean, there isn't really much benefit to stitching the rubber, in all honesty, because the adhesive sticks very well, and usually it's a harder material like leather that you want to stitch anyways. You don't necessarily need to stitch something as soft as a rubber here, but you know, we'll give that option. So if you want to have your rubber sole stitched, by all means we could do that. My personal recommendation always is just to get the leather stitched and then the rubber glued on, so easier and more cost efficient to replace, and less potential of the stitches ripping through the rubber itself. But we'll go ahead and get started then. Alright, so we got the first one all sanded out and trimmed up everywhere, so I'll set that aside. And then I did bevel the edge here a little bit. Of course, this gets cut out of a larger sheet. I had my tracings here and just kind of cut it out. And this is just to make sure that it's beveled out, so it's a little bit more flush. It's not 100% flush usually with these. I mean, I could do it at 100%, but the original sole did stick up a bit too. And you know, I did sand it down to accommodate it, so it's going to be a flush transition, but the grip itself is still going to stick up just ever so slightly, and that's usually normal. So I'll go ahead and do the other one off camera, get everything all glued up, stuck together. Gotta sand out the heel bases as well still. So I'll go ahead and get that all taken care of off camera, glue it all up and stick it, and then let it cure overnight so that the adhesion process binds nicely, and then tomorrow I'll be able to come in and stick it or stitch it all. Forgot the heel base I'm actually not gluing on right now because I still have to stitch it. But once I've got it all stitched up, then the heel base goes on, then we'll put the top lift and move on, so on. So we'll see you back here a little bit later. Alright, so we're back in our stitch room. I did sand out this area just a little bit where the transition between the leather and the stitching is. Makes it a little bit easier because we're still going to put a finish on that small section, and because it's a rubber leather finish right there, it's during the stitching process, the stitches still sit up a little bit, even though that we'll have a channel going through here, but we don't want to end up nicking that area at least beforehand and accidentally sand through the stitches. So as a precautionary, I like to sand that out just a little bit at least, because it's going to be sanded out later anyways, so that kind of gives it at least somewhat of a head start. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and stitch now. I already stitched up the other mate to this one, but I'll go ahead and get started on this one. I completely forgot that I was supposed to be recording the video for it. But because of course this is a transition between leather to rubber, it is a bit of a challenge because this rubber is very grippy. So we'll make sure to kind of pause at this point, be able to lift it up manually, this foot right here, and have to give that good transition there. You guys want to see what's under the hood, how it works? That's everything under there. I'll leave it open for this. A lot of moving parts there. Clip this. There we go. Close up that hood. There we go. There's a little bit of a channel that it sits in, just a little bit in that rubber. Not too shabby. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and dry off all this water that's still in the rubber area, and go ahead and start gluing up the heel base area there and start putting it all back together with the heel area there. And we'll see you back in just a little bit then. Alright, so put the heel bases on these already, and then the rubber top lifts. So now I've also sanded out the bottom here and all the edges everywhere. So basically we're gonna be just doing the edging. Now the edging here was a little bit of a lighter brown, and it was a little more rusticy looking, I guess you can call it. So we're gonna be using our Tarago Pro Shine here. It's got a higher concentration of hard waxes like Carnauba, so it'll give us a nice shine. But we're going to use it on that little area there of the leather too. Only difference is when it comes to buffing it, we're going to apply a little bit more of the harder Yankee wax to the edges, where on the bottom here we're just going to lightly buff it with a light neutral color. Okay, like that. Now normally most shoes edge dressing, we tend to actually use an edge dressing on it all around, but problem with the edge dressing and varnishes and all that, they tend to come in fairly solid colors and just basic black and brown, and the brown is a little bit on the darker side, not quite as light as this one. I actually had to look back at the video to see what it was exactly. Kind of forgot what it was. Luckily I was recording this pair here, otherwise I would have completely forgotten. And usually I write it on the ticket, but since we're doing a recording, I took the ticket off of these. Tickets have personal contact information, and we don't want that being visible in the videos. So there we go. Now I'm just gonna let this dry for a minute, and then once it's all dry, then we'll start buffing it up and everything. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one off camera and just continue on. So we'll see you back in just a little bit. All right, so we've got everything kind of waxed up just a little bit. Again, it's supposed to have more of that kind of rugged, rough look on there. But I've been kind of going back and forth with trying to clean these up during the whole repair process, and this was kind of the last time that I did this. I took a vinegar mixture in the spray bottle here with the desalter. As you can tell, it's blue, and it's kind of a nice gentle cleaner. It has some Lincoln Easy Cleaner in it as well. And then I take a nylon brush like this from Angelus, because it's a soft nylon brush, and just kind of brush it over. And I've gone through it a few times, but at this point this was again kind of the last time that I'm doing this, and now I just gotta let this dry overnight. And so tomorrow I'm gonna come back in and start treating the uppers. So we'll see you back here tomorrow when we do our final steps with this. All right, so got them all taken care of now, and did the treatment on the uppers. They've dried overnight with the cleaner that I used on there. And again, you know, we're trying to do as little as possible. We didn't put any strong or harsh conditioners or cleaners on there because this is an unfinished leather. It means it doesn't have a heavier coat of any forms of dyes or finishes or waxes or any polishes like that. So putting on something a little too strong, whether it's a solvent-based cleaning solution or a mink oil or lanolin-based conditioner, may be a little bit too harsh. So using something like Renovator or Big Four, there is a potential for, well, don't know about the Big Four necessarily because it's non-darkening is what they call it. It still has a tendency to sometimes do odd things on certain finishes I've had with these with this type. But you know, anything that's got a mink oil or lanolin, there is a potential for the leather darkening or being spotty a little bit. So I try to stay away from those, but regardless, I still use the Saphir Delicate Cream here. It's wheat protein and jojoba oil based, so it's a lot more delicate for this conditioning aspect on these. Afterwards, we went and waterproofed them with our Four Seasons waterproofer here, which is water based. It doesn't have silicone or polymer in it, so that ends up being a little bit better so that it doesn't darken that leather as well. And of course, horsehair brushes, very important after the conditioning. Just kind of buff it up to see if you need to get any excess off. I like to use the dauber brushes personally when it comes to something as light of a conditioner as the Delicate Cream, and because of the broguing here, you could really get in there with the dauber brush and kind of get it in and out of there nicely. But that was the kind of upper treatment on there. We could use Renovator on there, bring out more of a shine, but again, because there's mink oil and lanolin in the Medal d'Or version, I'm more concerned about it getting darkened in certain areas, so kind of stayed away from that. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video on the resole process on these with the new leather sole, the GTO Cross Hatch rubber half sole and heel that matches with it. Well, it's a bit of a thicker heel, of course, and then the sole is thinner. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask, comment down below, or stop by if you're local. Sorry, I keep getting interrupted. I'm here by myself today, and it's a Saturday. But anyways, if you aren't local and have any questions or comments, just go to our website, CobblersPlusCO, and we'll be more than happy to help if you send us an email or give us a call as well. And if you're wanting us to work on any of your shoes, boots, or other leather goods, you could always ship them out to us. Just follow the instructions on our website. The mail-in order tab, I believe it was called. Just follow those instructions, ship them out to us, we'll service them for you, and then ship them back over. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell icon for when we release new videos. And hopefully as time goes by, I'll start posting more frequently other than just once a week right now. Busy time of the year for us, so try and do what I can. Anyways, we'll see you next time.